A man whose vision is limited to little beyond himself, who has the profound lack of decency that would allow him to prioritize his own interests.
The stewardship of the nation has been thrown away to somebody who doesn't have a clue as to...
If he could reflect on these things, maybe he'd have, but he's such an unreflective person.
Did you know Trump thinks the only way he could lose an election is if it's rigged? Springsteen's not having it. He's calling out this orange turd for what he really is, a threat to democracy. But what made Springsteen snap? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. This political farce takes a wild turn with the arrival of the boss. The million-dollar question, though, is how Bruce Springsteen transitioned from penning hit songs to criticizing Trump. A very irate orange man, democracy, and decency are all involved. Spoiler alert. Boss didn't suddenly decide to give up guitars for political megaphones, it turns out. Actually, this metamorphosis was as messy and uniquely American as apple pie. When it comes to singing about the hopes and hardships of regular people, Bruce Springsteen has always been the voice of working-class America. Yet, he was unable to remain apathetic after witnessing Trump's depiction of America. Working hard, having hope, and helping your neighbor are the tenets of Springsteen's America. Trump's United States, well, it's more akin to a reality show in which the wealthy become even wealthier while the rest of us are only objects of attention. And it didn't sit well with the boss. What prompted Springsteen to replace his denim jacket with a suit of armor, metaphorically speaking? The explanation is straightforward. He witnessed the country he loves being divided by a man who would turn a blind eye to the suffering of his fellow citizens. The plan to make America great again that Trump has proposed is, frankly, as genuine as his tan. No holding back for Springsteen as he slammed Trump's campaign as a tragedy for our democracy. That hurts. It must have hurt worse than a guitar string breaking during a performance. However, the boss had more in store. A moron is besieging the Republic. He continued, "You won't find that particular line on any of his albums." What Springsteen isn't doing is slinging shade for no apparent reason. The effect of Trump's policies on the principles that define America is something that truly concerns him. Democracy, justice, and not treating the Constitution like a fast food menu are some of the smaller things. Plus, let's be honest, everyone, maybe we should take heed when a man who has dedicated his life to singing about the American dream issues a dire warning. Just imagine if your go-to weather software started predicting ego storms with a 100% probability of BS hurricanes. However, that's not all. Unlike other critics, Springsteen isn't sat comfortably in his studio berating Trump. No sir, he's exposing the underbelly of Trump's America through the prism of his celebrity status. He moved from dancing in the dark to debating in the daylight, and he's not hesitant to get his hands filthy. A self-proclaimed, very stable genius would seem to be the type of person who would easily brush off constructive criticism. However, you would be completely incorrect in regard to Trump. What could possibly cause the self-styled king of deals to fall apart like a cheap concrete wall? It seems our ex-president's ego is as big as a glass jaw. Prior to suffering his first electoral defeat, Trump began ranting about rigged elections.
The stewardship of the nation has been thrown away to somebody who doesn't have a clue as to...
And he has a feeling he's going to lose now, which of course he is going to lose.
What that means. And unfortunately, we have somebody who I feel doesn't have a grasp.
He seems to possess a crystal ball, but rather than revealing the future, it reveals his own self-doubt. "If I lose, it's because they cheated," is the catchphrase that comes out of his mouth whenever he opens his mouth. You can't help but question whether he truly believes everyone is out to get him or whether he's simply too chicken to face the music. But here's the worst part. Donnie Diapers vanishes whenever things go wrong. The COVID-19 pandemic comes to mind. It was someone else's problem to address, according to Trump. The results of the 2020 election are beyond my comprehension. It's as frustrating as seeing a child who is clearly losing at Monopoly refuse to accept defeat and instead flips the board. Some hypocrites are claiming that Trump is merely acting out his anxieties by bringing up the rigged election narrative. Does it make sense? The man is so afraid of failing that he would rather destroy the entire system than accept that he is not the preferred candidate of the people. It's as if he views democracy as a game where he gets to decide the outcome every time. It gets worse though, so hang on to those MAGA hats. Instead of merely bemoaning his defeat, Trump is actively working to alter the outcome.
Because the only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that.
The man whose vision is limited to little beyond himself, who has the profound lack of decency that would allow him to prioritize his own interests.
The trouble at the moment is you have Donald Trump, who is talking about rigged elections.
Officials in his state have come out to accuse him of trying to find votes, as if they were misplaced car keys. It's a direct danger to our democracy, not only poor sportsmanship. As if that weren't awful enough, Trump and his allies proceeded to extreme measures to contest the election results. They were essentially pleading with the Justice Department to become a member of their inner circle of coup plotters. They tried to change the toppings, the votes, by calling up election authorities like they were ordering pizza. It's almost as if Trump had temporarily lost track of his role as president and was mistaken for presenting The Apprentice. However, he is attempting to hand democracy the boot instead of yelling, "You're fired," to contestants. Democracy, believe me when I say this, isn't going anywhere soon. What gives with Trump's delicate pride, then? A single puff of truth causes the entire structure to collapse, much like a house of cards during a hurricane. The thought that more people might have preferred the other guy is too much for him to bear. Instead of facing the possibility that he may not be as well liked as he believes, he prefers to believe in a vast conspiracy. Put on your star-spangled banners, because Bruce Springsteen is about to tell us the truth about why some supporters are falling for Trump's phony platform. Am I hearing the blues from America's favorite blue-collar musician, or is he actually onto something? The boss has apparently been giving the question of why people are purchasing Trump's products a lot of thought. This is due to more than only their preference for politicians who are exceptionally crunchy and orange. Springsteen's idea revolves more around born to be duped than born to run. Springsteen claims that Trump's popularity is due to more than simply his charisma. What makes him special is the ease with which he resolves difficult issues, like putting a band-aid on a faulty automobile and crossing your fingers. He adds, if you've struggled and if you've suffered, it can be someone saying it's a very compelling argument.
He's such a flagrant, toxic narcissist that he wants to take down the entire democratic system with him if he goes.
Somebody who'd be willing to damage our long-cherished and admired system.
If he could reflect on these things, maybe he'd have, but he's such an unreflective person.
We're not going to lose this except if they cheat.
Continued on election night.
We want all voting to stop.
The real point, though, is that Springsteen isn't merely being disrespectful. His real concern is the impact of Trump's poison oil on our democracy. The situation is reminiscent of a roof that is leaking, and someone is attempting to mend it using duct tape and hope. Although it may appear to be functioning properly at first, the entire structure will inevitably collapse. When it comes to denouncing Trump's demagoguery, the boss isn't holding back. He claims that those who are feeling abandoned are being sold magic beans by Donnie Diapers. And let's face it, those magic beans start looking fairly enticing when you're battling to make ends meet. Some legitimate concerns are at the heart of Trump's appeal, as Springsteen notes. According to him, the deindustrialization of the United States and globalization will hit many people very, very hard. Imagine Trump locating a group of people suffering from paper cuts, and then convincing them that he possessed the finest band-aid in the world. For those who want to know, it's simply a standard band-aid that has the word Trump scrawled in Sharpie. Things become more serious now, though, even while, let's be honest, it could start a discussion on its own. Springsteen isn't merely criticizing Trump's hair game. Our current political climate is terrifying, and he is trying to warn us about it. It's as if Trump is tweeting about how amazing he is as the driver when we're all aboard a runaway train. Someone needs to speak out and preserve our democratic principles, according to the boss. It's as if he's coordinating a neighborhood watch, only they're keeping an eye out for incompetent dictators with unattractive spray tans rather than intruders. So, why all the fuss? Who cares about a rock star's political views? It may be time to pay attention when a man who has dedicated his entire career to singing about America begins to raise concerns. Just imagine if your go-to weather software started predicting ego storms with a 100% probability of BS hurricanes. Not only is Trump not the only target of Springsteen's wake-up call, let us be reminded of the ideals that America is intended to uphold.